welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and it's time for a reading update. No book haul this time, but I have quite a few books on my plate right now, and I'm a little struggling a bit on narrowing down and figuring out which ones to focus on. I am currently reading The Three Musketeers, which this has been on my shelf almost as long as we've been here. And so I'm feeling like I need to read this, finally pick this up. I mean, I did pick it up. I think Goodreads said it was 6 years when I first picked it up. But then I put it down, and I did read a chunk of it, like, D'Artagnan, the main character, gets to Paris and has his encounter with the Three Musketeers and almost duels them, but then the King's Guard show up and they realize they have a common enemy. And so I got to that part, and then I put it down for a long time, and then I picked it up again recently and started reading it again. And I mean, and I have such mixed feelings about it, because on the one hand, it is kind of fun. I don't hate it. But whenever I'm not motivated to pick it up, because there's so many other books I'm currently reading, and maybe that's part of the problem. I need to shelf those other books for now, at least a couple of them, and then focus on this one, because I've had this book so long that I feel like I want to finish it, and it's not that I'm not enjoying it. I mean, I'm actually entertained by it at times. And the risk of me, so when I'm kind of waffling with a book, like whether I'm trying to decide if I want to buy it at Given's bookshop, or if I'm started to read and I'm trying to decide, do I want to DNF it or not? Or is this going to be a softie enough? But I try not to do softie enoughs, because there are some I will leave books on my shelf for years, like this one, and eventually not pick it up. And sometimes I'll pick them up, and sometimes they'll end up getting donated because I realize I've lost interest. And I will look at the reviews, 3-star reviews at that point as well, because they're neutral. 3-star reviews, I feel like, are usually neutral reviews. And sometimes I wonder, and sometimes occasionally I find myself looking if someone really hates a book, I wonder why they really hate it. And just to, see if they're, if maybe I agree with them. And sometimes I feel like this is a situation where it could potentially influence me. And I heard both sides. I listened to both sides. There's a lot of positive reviews on YouTube of the book. And then on Goodreads, there's a lot of negative reviews. Which is interesting, because, no one's ranting about this book. Like, on YouTube, you see a lot of rants. You'll see rants on books that people hate, but there's no rants on YouTube so far that I've seen while going through reviews of people that just outright hate this book. Most of the people, they'll critique it, but they won't, but there are people that do still enjoy the book. Now, I was a little, I was hoping for Olive from Book Olive doing a review, specifically of the book, but she reviewed the Wishbone episode based on the book, and she had given it 2 stars on Goodreads, so I kind of want to know why, her thoughts on reading the book, but she mostly talked about the Wishbone episode, which, although that's a great series that she did, where she reviewed every episode of Wishbone. If you're a 90s kid, you probably know what Wishbone is. I mean, you might not. If you don't, it is a show where this family living in Texas, they have I can't remember what kind of dog. I think she says that Wishbone's a terrier or something, and he relates what's going on in their real lives to a work of literature, and Wishbone will often play the main character, and then because we get the story, the classic story plays out we get it played out. And Wishbone, like I said, he'll play the main character, and they kind of take the story and if it's a long classic, then they kind of trim it down and focus on the main themes that will be important, that they deem important for children to learn. Um, it was a really fun. It's one of my favorite episodes and one of my favorite shows growing up. It was always on PBS in the morning. And I really enjoyed her take on the episodes. And like I said, she did one for Three Musketeers when they did Three Musketeers, but she didn't really talk about the book. She just connected the book and the show. I mean, I would need to rewatch it just in case, but. And she was one of the ones that I was hoping that would explain her why she gave the book itself. I think she gave it 2 stars. But then there's, like I said, on YouTube, there's a lot of positive reviews. And there are people who do, and they're, do talk about their critique that there is a beginning part. I mean, part of the plot is very slow. They're one of the favorite characters for most people. It doesn't come until much later, and she's an antagonistic character, and everyone loves her. And like, it is funny that I noticed from what I've read so far, and then other people's reviews, that the movie adaptations, they don't do the whole book. I mean, they only cover parts of the book. They don't cover the whole thing. I mean, I don't know, but there was a TV series that BBC made. Maybe that does a little bit better with covering the whole book. But yeah, I thought that was also really interesting, that there's things that people who adapt it, they realize which I do, I thought about that recently with adaptations, and how adaptations, they kind of have to pick and choose sometimes, especially if it's a really long one and they're only doing like a movie, for instance. They have to pick and choose, and they have to apply to what will appeal to not just people that have read the book and love it, but also people that have not read the book because they're not interested in reading, which I know that's like, how could anyone not be interested in reading? That's blasphemous. But of course, there are people that don't like reading, but could still enjoy it. But they have to, pick and choose, because what works in a book and is not always going to work in an adaptation. In a movie adaptation. Like the characters, the Musketeers, including D'Artagnan, are not great people. I mean, one reviewer said they were just basically bros, just guys, typical guys, just hanging out and doing stupid shit. And, he acknowledges that he talked about that. And these guys are not very likable. They're not very honorable and heroic. And, that's a criticism the book has gotten in by other people that don't like the book. They don't like because they're so used to the versions of the adaptations. And I'm thinking, and when I read, I'm wondering, okay, does that thing bother me? Is that something that bothers me? Or is that necessarily, or maybe that was, Dumas was doing that on purpose. Like, he made them that way, or and this also, I also am considering that this book was written a long time ago, so the ideas back then were very different. The way women were treated and the way guys are. And of course, as a modern reader, I feel like you can't really help but criticize that. Especially as a female reader. Like, you can try to, be like, okay, this is how it was back then, I have to accept it. But there are a lot of female readers that just can't look past, and it's like, is that if you're going to choose to read classics, do you, hold that against the book? I mean, is it right? But then maybe a lot of those female readers are saying that, yeah, it's I can feel the way I feel about it, which, is valid. I mean, you can feel exactly how you feel. I mean, so I guess when you're reading these kinds of classics, and you run into that, you gotta decide, does that bother you enough that you just can't read the rest of it? I mean, is that going to influence you when your decision on how you feel about the book and how you would rate it? It's a very interesting dilemma. I mean, most female readers, I think they know how they feel, and how, if that's going to ruin a book for them, if this has a lot of female characters being treated badly. And it's like, where is the line? Where do you draw the line? Like, where do you, I mean, the book isn't going to change. Like, this book was written a long time ago, and these classic books are always going to be that, always going to have those elements. I mean, you can have modern readers, modern writers, modern authors can change and evolve and do better. But classics, they can't. It's not like they can do better, because like most of these authors that wrote these books that are deemed classics, they're dead. So it doesn't matter. And times have evolved. I mean, things are much better than they were back then. I mean, they're not perfect. They're not still not at the best place they could be. But yeah, that's something that's, I'm like, does that bother me? I mean, and I often feel guilty because there's some books that are more very male oriented, that have, in like, there's not a lot of female characters, and they're often women that are like the men. Like, D'Artagnan falls in love with every woman he sees. I mean, not every woman, that's an exaggeration, but yeah, he falls in love with a lot of women. Like, he was in love with, Constance, who was married, which I had no idea, because they have the character of Constance in the adaptations, but she's not married in the adaptations. That's one of the things that I guess they decided that they should change that. Because D'Artagnan would not look great if he was in love with a married woman and kept pursuing her. Which, that's one of the things that is, I can see that is kind of bothersome, is that she keeps that, and then she gets captured twice. She gets captured a lot. I mean, and I'm like, really? Why? Why does she have to get captured again? Why can't she save herself or whatever? Of course, this is, he did not, Dumas probably not seen, although, he writes a great, there's that one antagonist who is a woman, although she's villainized. And I don't know, Dumas expected people to love that character so much. But then, this is the same guy who wrote Count of Monte Cristo. And the female characters in there are really good too. They're complex. I mean, not all of them are, but yeah, it's really interesting dilemma for me. But I mean, I keep, I'll see all these positive reviews and I'll be motivated to pick it up and continue with it and to keep going. But then I read the negative reviews because I'm in a feeling of, oh, there's so many other books I want to read right now. And I mean, I'm almost at the end of the month, into my birthday month, and I don't know if I want to be reading this in my birthday month. But if I want to keep going, maybe I need to make this my number one priority to end the month on. But then there are so many other books I want to keep going with. So I don't know I don't entirely know. I mean, right now I feel motivated to continue with it. Like, once I'm done filming, I would like to read it. But I just don't know. I feel very, like, I don't know if any of you have experienced this, where you just go back and forth with a book if you want to continue it. And I just need to try to, focus more on, like, only reading a certain number of books. Like, I watched Tristan in the classics. I mean, this might have been on his other channel when he had this video, but he did a video where he talked about, he was one of those people who did one of those videos on, instead of reading more, read better. Like, I mean, that was more Jared Henderson's video. That was his philosophy. That instead of reading more books, the video was more talking about how you can read better. Like, instead of focusing on adding more to your read list, focus on more, like, prioritizing certain, focusing on your books and just really getting into those books and appreciating them and really looking at them and enjoying them. And that's kind of what Tristan's video was about as well. And how you shouldn't focus so much on the next book that you want to read. Just focus more on, live in the moment, live in the present of the book you're currently reading, which is something I want to work on. It's so, like, I have so many books on here that I want to read, that I want to get to this one. And then I'm also trying to show people, like, I live at home and with my parents. They don't live with me. I live with them still. I mean, despite the fact that I'll be 36 in a few weeks. It's just easier for me financially. And also, there are things I struggle with, and that right now I'm just not ready to be on my own. I do obviously have a job, so I'm not like living off of my parents. I have a job in which I mentioned on here like a few times, and I do give them money at the end of every month. So again, I'm not living off of them, but occasionally my mom still kind of holds me accountable for my spending habits and wanting to make sure. And I have this. It's I almost feel self conscious admitting this because I feel like, oh, I'm 36 years old. I should not have to. I'm an adult. I should make my own decisions. What's I do mostly. I make my own decisions. I decide what books I'm gonna buy. But I also feel like, and then I receive these books, and then my family and my friends give me books. I ask for books as gifts. My mom has expressed that she likes it when I ask her, for other stuff because she just doesn't want to just give me books. Of course, I'm a little frustrated with that because I'm like, I love books. I'm happy getting books, but I do sometimes make sure I do find things that I would like to get, I would like to receive if I don't buy them for myself that are that aren't books, but they're still book adjacent. Except or one isn't technically book adjacent, but it is something that I could use when reading in the car. But anyway, so I'm trying to assure her I read my books so that I don't just have, I don't spend, buy, buy more than buy more books than I get through them. But yeah, so I'm like trying to make sure I read, trying to assure her I'm reading my books. And so I'm trying to rate, and this particular book is one that I've had for a long time. And so I want to prioritize this book. And, I'm trying to, also prioritize all my other books. And I know I recently watched one of those videos that talked about, the concerns for consumerism and how we're buying more than, really appreciating reading. And, I always feel guilty conscious because I did, a couple years ago, I did stop using the library. I did when we first moved here use the library. But here's my defense. Maybe it's a weak, lame defense, but my library is small. It doesn't always have the books that I want to read in that moment. And I do use you guys know there's a used bookstore within walking distance, and I like to, I remind myself that, I could be, and maybe every person who buys tons of books says this to themselves, but I mean, I think there are people that are worse than me. I mean, I don't buy that many books. I don't buy like 20 books, and I don't buy books because they're pretty. I mean, I don't want to sound like, I hope that doesn't sound like I'm judging people because I know there are some people who like aesthetics of books, and that's you do you. If you like, and I do appreciate a nice cover. But yeah, and they are supposed to be working on our library, making it bigger so there's a bigger selection. I hope. Ideally, I hope. But that's not their priority. And it's not because I don't go to the library. I'm just one person. Other people go to that library. And I do use the Libby app, by the way. Although lately the Libby app is being, the last time I used it, like I mentioned this in a previous video that I didn't, I had put on hold the second book in a trilogy, and then it all of a sudden disappeared. And I do have on hold another book by an author my friend, a coworker recommended. That's, if you like Stephen King books, because she's also a fan of Stephen King. She says this author is great for Stephen King fans. It's Dean Koontz, and I didn't, and so I did put that on hold on the Libby, and it still hasn't come available. I hope it will happen soon. If I counted it right, going by what the app said, that 2 weeks, then it should be available in the next couple days. I hope. But yeah, the other thing is I'm trying to read the books I own as well, going through them. And so I'm trying to prioritize my library books. And if I get a library book, then I'm going to get like 4 or 5, which I know I have more self-control, but for the reasons people recommend using the library, which is they're free and you can borrow them and just try them out. So I'm like, oh, I want that book. Oh, I want to borrow that one. And then I end up only prioritizing those books because I have to return them at some point. And yes, I know renewal and everything, but I don't want to have to keep renewing books. So I'm kind of not in a, I'm very conflicted about it because I do appreciate the value and the importance of the library. And I think there are a lot of people that can't spend money on books, that can't afford to. And then they need to use the library. They need to depend on it. And not everybody has access to a library, or there's not a library in their area. So I do think it's important to appreciate the library, and I do donate to my library. I will give that. They're always, because I'm a member. I am a member. Then I will every so often donate them money to, because I'm hoping that they'll build a bigger one soon. But yeah, well, anyway, that's my defense of, not using the library right now. So yeah, this is kind of where I'm at with this one. I'm very conflicted. I mean, I think I'm gonna put some of these books. I don't know. I mean, I don't have many here right now. I only have Our Mutual Friend, the Recognitions, which I keep putting that book off because it's so long, and by William Gaddis. The author is William Gaddis, and that's grammatically incorrect. So let me rephrase that. So I have The Recognitions right here by William Gaddis, but that is a long book. That is a super long book and is very dense. It was one of these where I think his name is Chris, then from the channel Leaf by Leaf. The way he talked about that book, it got me really excited and wanting to check it out. So I did buy it. And I am enjoying it. So this is not me, being like, I'm going to read it and I'm enjoying it. I predict, because it takes a lot for me to not love a book. Like, and I don't buy books that I'm not interested or I don't want to read, books. Like, I know my taste in books. It's the other thing. I know what interests me, and so I make sure to buy only the books that interest me, not the books that are popular. Like, if it's popular, then it's popular if I happen to like it, but it's not because, oh, it's popular, so I must read this book. I'm not that kind of reader. And then I have this book that keeps, the way the books are standing up, one of them keeps falling. And it's not a heavy book, so it's like, doesn't have enough to keep it standing on its own. And then the other one is Bear and a Luthien by Tolkien, because my Tolkien project, so I'm reading that one. But in that, I'm reading Blackwater on my Kindle. So what I always run into also is that I worry about, like, if I put it back on my shelf, then I'll forget about it for another few years and not come back to it. So I want to keep them here because I'm like, oh, I have to see them so that I will get to it. So I'm probably going to read a little bit more of this. And I don't know, maybe put some of these down, put one of these. Oh, and one other book that I have on my nightstand at the moment is Princes of Ireland. That's the other one that I'm currently reading. I'm liking that one too, and I thought that would be great for spring, because I don't know, I'm thinking green, all the greenery of Ireland, I mean, it's not like they don't have winter and fall and all that, but I'm just thinking green, spring. So I'm reading that one as well. The book I should probably put away is The Recognitions for now. But yeah, I'm trying to get myself to focus on certain book, just focus. And I always never know what to focus on. And, I want to, like I said, I know that probably the recognition should go on the shelf for now, and then I'll take it off again. Princess of Ireland was one of those things where I had attempted to read one of Richard Rufford's books before Paris, and at the time it was just too long, too big of a commitment. And there wasn't and I just wasn't feeling the story because it was just meandering and not a lot was going on at the time. And of course, I do think your tastes change and what you get into changes as well. And I would like to try again, just as I wanted to try again with Anne Rice. May she rest in peace. And so that's why I was motivated. And then also I have two other books that take place in Ireland. The Bee Sting, and then I think there's one other Irish related book that I'm reading, or that I have on my shelf. Not reading, but I have it on my shelf. But then, I only want more, even though I'm not very good at being a seasonal reader, and, I don't want to pressure myself to be a seasonal reader. I also am thinking, spring's almost over, and now I gotta, I might be reading my more summer books that I feel like are more summery, and, there's books, like, I want to go back to the theme I had a couple years ago where, water themes, books that take place in the water or in the ocean or whatever, or pirates and all that. So I don't know what I'm going to do. Like I said, I feel like I need to get back to the Three Musketeers and just keep going and see if I want to, maybe eventually I'll stop in soft DNF it. Like I said, I don't want to soft DNF it because I want to just make a decision. Because it's going to be sitting there for years again, and I don't want to do that again. But I don't know. I'm going to keep going for now. And I'll see what happens. So that's kind of my reading update for right now. I would love to know what you're currently, as always, I appreciate knowing what you're currently reading. Do you have any books that that you're currently reading that you're kind of going back and forth on, deciding if you want to read it or not, or if you want to keep going with it or not? I'd be interested to know that. And do you feel like you're able to prioritize the library? Or are you like me and you're trying to read the books on your own shelf? Or maybe you're judging me. Maybe be like, that's a lame excuse to not go to the library. And that really you should stop buying books. If you're thinking that, if you are thinking that, please don't say it. I already feel guilty enough as it is. And I'm probably not going to stop, because, and you know what? It's not like I'm going to the bookstore every day, only just going a couple times a month. A few times a month, but maybe you're judging me, no matter how many times I defend myself, I don't know. But anyway, I do appreciate you guys, and I will talk to y'all later. All right, bye!